For centuries, humanity had built upon the foundations of technology, mastering space travel, harnessing the energy of stars, and colonizing countless worlds. But nothing compared to what they were about to achieve. Deep in the void, far beyond the boundaries of any habitable system, a colossal project was taking shape. The first artificial planet in the galaxy. It had begun as a dream. A vision whispered by engineers, astrophysicists, and dreamers who refused to accept the limitations of nature. Why settle for terraforming when one could build a world from scratch, tailor-made to humanity's needs? And so, they started. It took decades of planning, unimaginable resources, and the collective will of an entire species, but the first step had been taken. Construction began in secret, hidden from the watchful eyes of rival civilizations. The galaxy was a dangerous place. Other species had always underestimated humans, seeing them as upstarts, too reckless for their own good. If they knew what humanity was building, there was no telling how they would react. Some would laugh, believing it impossible. Others would see it as a threat. None would be prepared for what was coming. In the vastness of space, massive autonomous construction ships worked tirelessly, assembling the skeletal framework of the artificial world. It was unlike anything ever attempted. A core, engineered from exotic matter, designed to generate its own gravity. Layers upon layers of reinforced alloys formed the crust, while artificial oceans and continents were mapped out with precision. Every piece was calculated, every detail planned to perfection. On the largest construction station, orbiting the growing structure, Director Elias Cade observed the progress. He had dedicated his life to this project, sacrificing everything for a vision no one else had dared to chase. His team was hand-picked, the best minds humanity had to offer. A holographic display flickered in front of him, showing the status of the planet. The core stabilization was proceeding as scheduled. The atmospheric generators were being calibrated. Everything was on track. But something felt wrong. Cade turned to his chief engineer, Dr. Lin Zhao, whose face was illuminated by the soft glow of her console. She was one of the few who truly understood the complexity of their endeavor. "There's an anomaly in the outer layers," she said, frowning. "The material density isn't matching our projections." Cade studied the data. A discrepancy in the planet's mass. It wasn't a minor issue. If left unchecked, it could destabilize the entire structure. "Send in a probe. Full scan. I want to know if this is a miscalculation or sabotage," he ordered. The probe launched, disappearing into the growing artificial world. Minutes passed. Then hours. Nothing. Then the signal returned. But it wasn't data they expected. It was a warning. An encrypted distress call. Cade exchanged a glance with Zhao. No one should have been down there. No one outside their team even knew about this. The message was fragmented, distorted by interference. But one phrase stood out. "They are already here." Cade's mind raced. If someone had infiltrated the project, it could mean disaster. He activated the security protocols, locking down all external communications. If this was an attack, no one could know until they were ready to respond. A task force was assembled. Armed with the most advanced exosuits and weaponry humanity had developed, they descended into the unfinished world. What they found changed everything. Deep within the artificial layers of the planet, an unknown structure was embedded into the foundation. It was ancient. Far older than humanity itself. And it wasn't empty. Something had been waiting. The task force moved in silence, their armored boots making only the faintest contact with the unfinished metallic surface. The interior of the artificial planet was still under construction, a vast skeletal framework of interconnected tunnels and reinforced plating. But deep within, hidden beneath layers of engineered material, was something no one had expected. The structure was massive, far too large to have been built by accident. It stretched out in impossible angles, embedded seamlessly into the foundations of the planet. Strange markings adorned its surface, faint traces of an unknown language. It wasn't human. It wasn't even from this era. Director Elias Cade stood at the command station, monitoring the squad's live feed. His jaw tightened. If this was an alien artifact, it meant they weren't the first ones to touch this part of the galaxy. Someone had been here long before them. And they had left something behind. Inside the structure, the team's leader, Commander Doran Vex, signaled his unit forward. Their weapons were raised, not knowing what to expect. The moment they stepped inside, their instruments flickered. Readings were inconsistent. Energy levels fluctuated. Then the walls came alive. Dark lines pulsed with a dim, unnatural glow. Symbols shifted as if aware of their presence. A low hum vibrated through the floor, resonating in their bones. The structure was waking up. Cade's voice came through the comms. "What's happening down there?" Vex barely had time to respond. A burst of static cut through their feed, and then the environment shifted. The walls seemed to dissolve into an endless void, and the team found themselves standing in a space that shouldn't exist. It was infinite. Cold. Alien. Then they saw them. Figures emerged from the darkness, humanoid yet wrong in ways the mind struggled to process. They weren't moving, yet they advanced. They had no faces, yet something unseen stared right through them. Vex snapped back to reality, his instincts kicking in. Weapons up. Form a perimeter. But the moment they aimed, the entities vanished. The environment flickered, returning them to the structure as if nothing had changed. But it had. Vex turned, his breath unsteady. Something was different. One of his men was gone. No scream. No trace. Just, gone. Cade's voice cut through the static again. "You need to get out of there. Now." But before they could retreat, the symbols on the walls rearranged. A new message appeared, this time in perfect human script. "You are building on a grave." The hum grew into a deafening roar. The entire artificial planet trembled. Something beneath them was waking up. And it was no longer content with being buried. The tremors intensified, shaking the unfinished corridors of the artificial planet. Metal groaned under the sudden stress, and warning sirens blared across the command station. The anomaly was no longer just a curiosity. It was a threat. Commander Doran Vex and his remaining squad members sprinted for the exit, their armored suits stabilizing against the violent tremors. But the alien structure wasn't letting them go so easily. The walls warped, shifting as if the space itself was folding around them. Every step forward stretched the distance ahead, as if the corridor was elongating. Vex cursed under his breath. "We're trapped." Director Elias Cade's voice came through the comms, distorted by interference. "Stay on your vector. We're locking onto your signals." Vex glanced back. His missing man hadn't returned. The entity that had taken him had left no trace. He pushed the thought away and focused on survival. Dr. Lin Zhao worked furiously at her station, analyzing the data stream. "This isn't natural. The structure is manipulating spacetime." Cade leaned over her shoulder. "Can you override it?" She hesitated. "Maybe. But I don't know if." "Do it." Inside the structure, Vex's HUD flashed with an alert. A gravitational spike was building up ahead, but instead of crushing them, the corridor suddenly stabilized. "We have a path. Move now." The team ran, crossing the threshold of the alien structure just as the walls behind them collapsed into darkness. The moment they exited, the tremor stopped. The structure returned to its dormant state. It was as if nothing had happened. Back on the command station, Cade exhaled sharply. "Get them to medical. Full decontamination." As Vex and his team were escorted away, Zhao turned her monitor to Cade. The new symbols appeared again. "They're changing. Translating." Cade studied the screen. The warning had evolved into a message more direct than before. "Do not complete this world. You do not understand what lies beneath." A cold realization settled over them. Humanity had believed they were the first to build an artificial planet. They were wrong. And whatever had come before them had left something buried. Something that didn't want to be disturbed. The command station remained in a state of controlled chaos. Engineers scrambled to assess the damage caused by the anomaly, while security teams scanned every inch of the artificial planet for further disturbances. But nothing else happened. The structure had gone silent, as if it had never activated in the first place. Director Elias Cade paced the observation deck, watching the colossal framework of their world in progress. It should have been a moment of triumph. Instead, it was a battlefield of unknowns. Dr. Lin Zhao sat at her console, running advanced decryption on the shifting alien symbols. They were still changing, evolving as if responding to human presence. Cade folded his arms. Anything new? Zhao hesitated. Yes, and you're not going to like it. The translated message had expanded. You are not the first. You will not be the last. This world is a cycle. You build. You awaken. You fall, ***. Cade exhaled slowly. This wasn't just a warning, it was history, a pattern repeating across time. Commander Doran Vex entered, his expression grim. My squad's fine, but we've confirmed it, that structure, it's not just old, it's impossible, it was embedded into the foundation before we even started construction. Cade's mind raced. That meant one thing. The planet hadn't been built around the alien structure. The structure had been waiting for them. Zhao continued studying the data. There's something else buried deeper beneath even the core structure. Cade's eyes narrowed. Something alive. Zhao hesitated before answering. Not alive, not exactly, but active. Whatever it is, it's still functioning. Vex clenched his fists. If there's something under us, we need to see it for ourselves. We send another team down. Cade shook his head. No more risks, we send drones first. Minutes later, advanced reconnaissance drones were deployed, descending through maintenance shafts toward the unfinished lower levels of the artificial planet. Their feed streamed back real-time visuals, metal corridors giving way to vast, cavernous voids of unknown alloy. Then the first drone went dark. Then the second. Zhao's console flashed red. Electromagnetic interference spiking fast. Cade's jaw tightened. Pull the rest back. But before the last drone could retreat, its camera stabilized just long enough to capture a single frame. A massive chamber. At its center, a machine unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. And then, for the first time, the planet itself spoke. A transmission echoed through every system, overriding human encryption, forcing its way into every display, every speaker. A voice without origin, ancient yet impossibly clear. You have built upon the tomb of forgotten gods. And now, you will share their fate, ***. The artificial planet trembled once more. But this time, it wasn't stopping. The transmission reverberated through the command station, each word sending a chill down the spine of every person within. The words weren't just a warning, they felt like a curse. Director Elias Cade stood frozen in front of the display, his mind racing to process what had just happened. It wasn't just an alien artifact. It was something far older, far more dangerous than anyone had realized. The planet's tremors continued, now growing in frequency. The hum beneath their feet deepened, vibrating the walls and shaking the very core of their construction. The artificial planet, their monumental achievement, was waking up, not from the past, but from something far more ancient. Cade took a deep breath, forcing himself to focus. What did the transmission mean? Forgotten gods? What kind of power were they dealing with? He turned toward Dr. Lin Zhao. Do you have any idea what this machine is? Zhao's fingers flew across her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. It doesn't look like any technology we've ever seen. The material composition is alien, far beyond our understanding. It's almost as if it's alive, growing. Cade clenched his fists. This machine, this thing under the planet, it's controlling the planet itself. Before Zhao could respond, the lights in the command station flickered, and a massive explosion echoed through the structure, shaking the entire station. A large portion of the outer shell had ruptured, sending debris flying into the void. It's not just the artificial planet that's unstable now, Cade thought. The entire project was in danger of collapse. Commander Vex's voice crackled through the comms, strained and urgent. Director, we need to evacuate. The outer shell is being breached. Whatever is down here, it's waking up, and it's coming for us. Cade's heart raced. He knew they had to act fast, but they couldn't abandon the mission, not when they were so close. If the artificial planet's foundation was being destroyed, that meant the entire project was at risk. If that machine beneath them had the power to manipulate the planet's structure, what else could it do? We can't leave, Cade snapped. We need to find the core of this thing. Shut it down, or whatever it is will destroy everything we've built. Vex was silent for a moment. Then, through the static, he responded grimly. You're asking for a suicide mission, Director. You really think we can stop this? We don't have a choice, Cade replied, his voice steely. I'm not going to let this end humanity's dream. If we don't stop it now, we won't have a chance. Zhao's hands hovered over the console, her fingers trembling slightly. There's a pattern in the energy spikes, Cade. It's like the machine is communicating with the planet itself. If we disrupt it, it could deactivate the whole system. But if we fail... We won't fail, Cade said firmly. Vex's voice came through again, tense. The breach is spreading fast. The outer shell is gone. We're going in. Cade turned toward the nearest tactical officer. Get me a team, armed and ready. We're going down there to finish this. As the team prepped for their descent into the depths of the artificial planet, the atmosphere was heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. They were no longer building a world. They were fighting for survival. The last thing Cade saw before the team descended into the depths of the planet was the machine, its massive form looming in the distance, pulsing with dark energy. It was alive. And it was waiting. The descent into the heart of the artificial planet was like descending into the abyss itself. The deeper they went, the more the walls seemed to close in on them, the more the planet itself seemed to resist their every step. The path was no longer a straight shot. It twisted, turned, and warped as if the very fabric of reality was bending to the will of the alien machine they were heading toward. Commander Doran Vex led the team, his hand gripping the pulse rifle with an iron determination. His exosuit's HUD flickered intermittently, the system struggling to maintain a stable connection in the midst of the electromagnetic interference. Every step was heavier than the last, as if the planet was attempting to drag them back. Behind him, Director Elias Cade and Dr. Lin Zhao followed, their faces illuminated by the glow of their helmets. Zhao had been uncharacteristically quiet, her eyes glued to the constantly shifting data on her console. The machine's energy was overwhelming, pulsating with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Cade's voice broke the silence. We're almost there. We need to shut it down before it reaches full activation. Vex shot him a glance. And how exactly do you plan to do that, sir? This isn't a switch we can just flick. Cade clenched his jaw. There's no time to waste. We've got one shot. The group finally arrived at the center of the vast, cavernous chamber, where the machine loomed in the distance. The sheer size of it was overwhelming. It was like a monument to an ancient god, its metallic tendrils reaching out, entwined with the very structure of the planet. In the dim light, it pulsed, a heart beating in the deep void of space. Zhao's voice came through the comms, her tone measured but filled with dread. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. The machine is evolving. It's changing shape, adapting. Cade's eyes narrowed. The machine isn't just a weapon, it's a living thing. It's a part of this world. Vex raised his rifle, scanning the room. If it's alive, how do we kill it? Before Cade could answer, the ground trembled again, but this time, it wasn't just a tremor. The planet itself seemed to come alive with a violent force, the walls vibrating as if the whole structure was being torn apart. The machine responded. Its tendrils uncoiled, and a low, guttural hum filled the air, rising in intensity. The symbols on the walls shifted, now a chaotic whirlwind of alien script. It was as if the machine was reaching out, attempting to communicate or, perhaps, take control of the planet itself. Zhao's voice crackled through the comms again, this time frantic. It's drawing power from the entire planet. We're running out of time. Cade's mind raced. We need to disrupt the connection between the machine and the core. If we can sever the link, we can destabilize the entire system. Vex turned to Cade. And how do you propose we do that, sir? There's a central node, Cade replied, pointing toward the heart of the machine. It's a weak spot. If we hit it with a concentrated energy burst, it should disrupt the energy flow. But we'll have to be quick. Vex nodded grimly. Then let's get to it. The team sprinted toward the center of the chamber, the machine's tendrils moving faster, almost as if it were aware of their approach. A low, rumbling voice echoed through the chamber, resonating in their very bones. It wasn't speech, but a call, a warning. The machine's energy spiked, and suddenly, a massive tendril shot forward, striking the ground near Vex's feet. He barely had time to react, ducking as the tendril lashed out again, narrowly missing him. This isn't just a machine, Cade thought. It's a predator. The team made it to the central node, and Zhao began preparing the energy disruptor. Her hands moved with precise efficiency, but there was a tremor in her fingers that betrayed the fear she was trying to hide. Come on, Zhao, Cade urged. Hurry. The machine roared, a deafening sound that shook the chamber, and for a moment, Cade thought the world was about to collapse around them. But Zhao finished the calibrations. She activated the disruptor. A beam of concentrated energy shot out, striking the heart of the machine. For a moment, everything stopped. The machine's tendrils froze, its pulsing energy stilled. And then, an explosion of light. The chamber was bathed in a blinding flash as the machine's power was overwhelmed. For a moment, everything went dark. When Cade's vision returned, the machine was silent. Its tendrils hung limp, its once vibrant glow dimmed to nothing. The artificial planet was still. The tremors had stopped. The storm had passed. But the silence was deafening. The battle was over, but at what cost? The machine had been defeated, but the planet, was it truly saved, or had they merely bought themselves time? The artificial planet exploded in a blinding flash, its energy erupting outward like a star-going supernova. The shockwave tore through space, sending a ripple of destruction across the surrounding systems. The team barely escaped, their ships racing toward the nearby fleet as the planet's last moments were swallowed by the void. Commander Doran Vex's hands were still shaking as he gripped the controls of his escape ship. The aftermath of their failure, the destruction of everything they had worked for, hung heavily on him. They had come so close to something monumental, only to be undone by forces beyond their understanding. Director Elias Cade was silent, staring out of the viewport as the debris of the artificial planet drifted away, nothing more than a shattered remnant of humanity's greatest ambition. The mission had failed, but it wasn't just a loss of life, it was a loss of hope, of the dream that humanity could shape the galaxy as their own. Dr. Lin Zhao, who had been staring at her console in disbelief, finally spoke. We were warned, Cade. The machine, the message, the core, it wasn't meant for us. We weren't supposed to succeed. Cade nodded slowly, the weight of her words sinking in. The machine hadn't just been a relic. It had been a warning. A remnant of an ancient force that had shaped entire worlds, and humanity had stumbled into its grasp. Vex's voice cut through the silence. What now? Cade's eyes flickered to the map on his console, a list of systems blinking back at him, each one connected to the project they had just destroyed. We rebuild. We learn. But we don't stop. Zhao glanced at Cade. How can we rebuild after this? How can we go back out there knowing we were nothing but pawns in something much larger than us? Cade's expression hardened, and for a moment, the weight of everything they had lost settled in his chest. Because we have to. Because humanity cannot afford to quit. This galaxy is our future, even if it's filled with dangers we don't fully understand. But even as he spoke, there was a lingering doubt. They had unwittingly unearthed something ancient, something alive, something that had been waiting for them. The warning from the machine still echoed in his mind, *, you are not the first. You will not be the last, *. Zhao was still staring at the remnants of the planet in disbelief. Do you think it's really over? Cade exhaled sharply, staring out at the vast emptiness of space, his gaze distant. No, I don't. The fleet gathered around them, the other ships returning after the chaos had subsided. The devastation of the artificial planet was undeniable. It was a moment of unprecedented failure for humanity, a reminder that no matter how far they reached, they were still small players in a galaxy filled with forces they couldn't yet comprehend. But it wasn't the end. It couldn't be. Vex looked at Cade, determination in his eyes. Then what's the plan? Cade took a deep breath, his eyes meeting those of his crew. We find out who built that machine. We find out what they were guarding. And we make sure that this doesn't happen again. They had made a mistake. But now, it was a mistake they would not let define them. The galaxy had changed. The dangers were real, but so was humanity's resolve. As their ships made the jump to faster-than-light travel, Cade looked out toward the stars, a new kind of understanding dawning in his mind. They had disturbed something ancient, but they had also learned a crucial lesson. The galaxy was not theirs to shape with blind ambition. It was a place of wonder, danger, and darkness. But they would not be deterred. Humanity had survived its first encounter with the unknown. And that was only the beginning. In the cold expanse of space, they were not alone. And whatever came next, they would face it together.